Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been a month now since I've updated any video, and Christmas has passed, a lot of things passed, and one of the things that has passed is the San Internal Classical Championship of 2024-25 that happened roughly, I think 3 weeks ago or like a month now. I don't really remember the exact date. I have it here. Let me see. Okay, so I think it wasn't on the 1st of November. Anyways, I don't really know. But and I never got the chance to do the recap of this tournament, so I'm here with you guys to do so. Um, it is a 30-minute plus 30-second tournament, a classical one. And on the first round, I myself, Majin Vegeta, get paired up against Super Saiyan Goku, who is Enrique Correa, which is pretty much my like rival and is like a little bit better than me, to be honest. But yeah, he has the white pieces and I have the black pieces, and let me just make sure the game plays. He starts the game with d4. Okay, everything looks fine. Respond knight f6, c4, and we have e6. This is the Nimzo Indian defense where black tries to play after knight c3. Black tries to pin the knight to the king, which is a defense that I have been playing for quite some time. Not really right now. I've been playing it because the thing is that the good of the Nimzo is that it's very solid and powerful, but it can be avoided with knight f3 first. I don't think that you guys can see the full chess tab, but it says that this is the Indian game. It's Indian and Thai Nimzo Indian variation. Just with knight c3. In theory, you can still play here, giving it check, but if they block with the bishop, you just trade and you get like. It's not really that good. But anyways, we have knight c3, and I go for the queen's Indian defense with b6, which is also an opening that I've been playing a lot. This setup, it's quite an unexpected setup. Not a lot of people play it nowadays, but it's still kind of good. He goes knight c3. I pin the knight to the bishop, just continuing with my Nimzo Indian plan. He counterpins my knight to my queen, which is a move that I knew that he would probably make. Now, you guys cannot see our elos, but he is 1481 and I'm 4059. That's, I think, rapid or whatever, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, he pins my knight to my queen, bishop g5, which is not the best approach to the position. The best approach is obviously queen c2, just standard Nimzo Indian theory. Bishop g5 is not that accurate, and I knew that my opponent would probably make a move like this because it is much of him going into these lines. And keep in mind that this line of bishop g5 is quite tricky if you don't play it correctly, because if you don't play it correctly, then white can achieve e4. I go bishop b7 just so I can stop e4, because if e4 it hangs the not that pawn, it hangs this pawn. And we have g3. G3 is not, of course, it's the engine does not appreciate a lot this setup, but I myself find it quite annoying. This is kind of the Catalan setup, and it can be a little painful. I with black against the queen's pawn opening, I find it very struggling. I say the queen's pawn opening, and also the English, because in e4 openings they normally don't do it, but they put the bishop, the kingside bishop in fianchetto, and it's quite hard to attack or to actually do anything, because it's very solid. Here I just trade, doubling his structure. In castle, he finishes development, and I go d6. Now d6 is one of those moves, like, I could have played like d5 and try to play with an isolated queen pawn, and even take with the bishop. Maybe that would be interesting. But I go d6, just trying to keep my pawn structure solid and trying to go knight d7 next. He castles, I go knight d7, queen c2. Everything is, it's not bad. I mean, it's not like it's the best engine line, but here, like, the engine is also saying that white's best plan is to move the knight to the side and trade the bishops. Queen c2, we have queen e8. The knight now goes back to d2, and here I have a slight advantage. I trade the bishop for the bishop, but I do not find the correct move. The correct move, it's knight h5, and yeah, the advantage is only minus 4.3, which is not a really big deal in my level, or in like anyone's level. Like, not even GMs can like win a game from a 0.3 advantage. We have d5. Of course, it's not that accurate, but it kind of draws the game. We trade, and here, I mean, I wouldn't do this like now. I would probably take with knight, because then you have to play with it. It's not isolated, but I mean, I don't know. Okay, he goes e3. Jump. I9 forward to e4. We trade, and we actually trade queens, and we head into an endgame. And after like 16 moves, everything is like traded. There's nothing much, but the game is very much to be played because it's an equal endgame. But we're like, I'm not gonna say dumb, but we're not the best players, and a lot of stuff tend to happen. Bishop f4. You have rook c8, just defending the c pawn. And g4. G4 is a little bit weird. It's not that bad because the engine doesn't really hate it that much. We have knight f6. We have h3. Now h3, I mean, it supports the idea of going g4, but it's just not the best. Now, they say knight d5 gives a slight advantage. Not that move. c5. I played knight d5 gives a slight advantage. And here I was kind of calculating, how do I go knight d5 first? Or first, do I like do c5? Do I try to, I don't know, do something? And at the end, I went with c5, which is not the right plan. It's the third line of the computer, but of course it doesn't really keep the advantage. Vai.
Cuidado, está quente, hein?
Ok.
Cuidado com isso. Os computadores, be careful.
Tá bem.
Olha, agora vem para aqui então, não vais jogar isto, não é?
Não.
Ok.
C5.
Está assim ou assim?
We have c5, rook c1, and at move 20 we rook 8 to c1, and we agree to a draw. The end game is drawn. I asked for a draw, and as he's my friend, he accepted. Yeah, this was game 1. Let's head into the next game. And we're back. So yeah, I was really happy with the draw in the first round. And you may notice that I changed the scenario. And yes, I did, because my dad is now watching a movie in the office. So yeah, well, now we have round 2 of the tournament. I am with white pieces against Gabriel Gonçalves, or Gonçalves, or Goncalves, or Gonzalenia, or Gonzalez, however you Americans say his name. And yeah, let's start the game. My opponent is not rated, and I didn't actually know his strength prior to this game. I knew that he also drew his last game, and he had an extra bishop against Georges Carrillo, which you might remember from last year's tournament. I opened with d4. He responds with d5, and I play knight f3. I could have went for some queen's gambit, but I was thinking just going for a little system or something like that. He goes knight f6, copying. Go e3, my famous Calais system. He pins my knight to my queen. I protect the knight, and he jumps with the knight forward. Now, here, this was all. To be honest, this seemed to be a little inaccurate from my opponent. I mean, the clear idea is that after knight takes, you can like just attack the knight. But even here, it's not losing because of h3. And yeah, you have to put the bishop back. I attack it again. After this, I just move my knight and have a very dominant position. But I play c4, which is also fine. Little T from our English countryman. He takes knight on d2. I take with the bishop because if I take with the queen, then he will damage my pawn structure, and I don't really want that. He plays e6, and I go check. He blocks with the queen, and here I think I trade queens exactly. He takes with the knight, and now I jump with the bishop. I obviously traded queens because now my knight is not pinned anymore. That's one of the main reasons why I gave the check on a4. Because then the knight is not pinned and can just get out of that situation. He trades knights, I take with the pawn, he plays e6. h3 just playing with the bishop, he goes back, I strike again with d4. Now we're in a pure endgame. We both have the bishop pair, everything seems balanced, and it looks like it's gonna head to a draw. Let me just grab a cookie. House. On Christmas, and there's also lots of Christmas lights in the background. I don't know if you guys can clearly see it. He goes back with the bishop. I play f3, just trying to solidify my pawn structure a little bit more. Maybe here f4 would have been better. Here the engine wants c takes d5 to keep the advantage. Don't quite see why. And actually f3 is a matter of a move because it stops all bishop e4 mumbo jumbos hitting the rook. Plays a6. We have h4, just trying to get that bishop at all costs, and here he blunders. He goes bishop c5, and here I attack the bishop, and technically I'm winning it because I calculated that after the bishop goes for its only square, that is c2, I can attack it with my rook, and then after the bishop tries to retreat to a4, I can play b3 and win the bishop. He here tries to attack my rook with the black bishop, but I just slide out of the way, and here he trades the bishop for the pawn because he's gonna lose it. He might as well just lose it like this. Here he returns with the bishop, which is not that great, to be honest. I mean, the bishop there is also not doing anything, so maybe here it's a little bit better. Here I would have tried to get one of the rooks involved because I'm pieced out and I need some activity. Bishop d3, still the engine wants me to take up d5. Wait a minute. Yeah, the engine wants me to take on d5. He castles, and I go king e2. Like now, one of my main, not solid, but like I would say trademark moves is definitely king e2, king e2, and f4. They're probably my trademark moves. Goes rook d1, d8, not d1, d1 is the other edge of the board. I just play bishop c3, just trying to secure the dark squares. He goes f6, and I go h6. He goes there, but that's not the blunder, but I go f4 and just have a solid pawn structure. Here he trades on c4, I take with the bishop. He has to protect the e6 pawn. I take on f6, he takes with the bishop, and here I just trade because I am a bishop up. I check, and I have this beautiful 4-on-1, 4 serpent here on the king side. Rook a1, have rook a8, and rook a5. Now, the thinking process behind this thought is that I would want my rook to get on e5 to target this pawn, which is very, very hard to defend. He goes b5, which is a move, definitely. I slide my bishop back, and he goes rook here. And now, the rook here is kind of pointless. This would have been a great plan if b5 didn't weaken all these pawns, these two pawns, and I just couldn't take it with the rook. He tries to slide his king over, but here I just trade my rooks, winning a pawn. He advances, but I check, and I take the h pawn. And this is a completely winning endgame. 8 plus 8.69. For any of you adults that may understand this reference watching. I don't know why my computer screen now, out of jokes, is completely wet. We have rook g8, and here it's just simple endgame conversion with a lot of style. Here my opponent resigns the game because now he cannot stop the pawn promotion. If he takes the rook and I take with my pawn, technically he does win my pawn, but it's like 4 against 2, and there's no way he's winning that or drawing. He shouldn't be. And we win the game. So after round 2, I'm 1.52, and let me tell you, that is very, very very promising and solid. It's a 6-round tournament, but spoiler alert, there wasn't no 5th round because I was paired off. I think it's like that yet, right? It was 5 rounds, right? Yeah, it probably was. Yeah. But anyways, let's head to round 3. And we're back. Wait, I forgot to change it. The round score. Yeah, round 3. We're in round 3. I'm playing with the white pieces against George Carrillo, who, if you might remember, was my first opponent in last year's tournament, where I will say shamefully lost after having a slightly better position than his, and it was quite dominating. But I entered this game as a changed man that wasn't ready to take no shit. I didn't really know if I was gonna play e4, d4, or knight c3, or knight f6, or maybe try some fianchetto. I didn't want to play a system. I kind of wanted to play like an aggressive type of game. So I decided to set up a little trap. I played e4. And responding with e5. Yeah, I was expecting either e5 from him or a French, not really a Scandinavian or a Caracon, or maybe even a Sicilian. That was an option, and I didn't really know what I was gonna go against a Sicilian, but it's chess at the end of the day. You gotta play what you gotta play. Knight c3, Vienna game. He goes knight f6, and here I go f4. Here I set up a little trap. I invite him to take my pawn, which I really thought that he was gonna blunder, because then you push and the knight has to retreat, and you play, wait, not to that square, to this, yeah, it's not that pawn, and then you play knight f3 and try to develop to the center like this and attack and win this pawn back, and you have a very comfortable game. Here he defends it with d6, which is a move, not the best, but it is a move. I go knight f3, he pins my knight to my queen, and I go bishop c4. He goes h6, a6, attempting to play maybe b5 and keep my bishop away, which I wasn't really frightened. I just castled, and now you can see my intentions. I have this open f-file looking at this pawn. I have this bishop looking at this pawn, and you're gonna see not this bishop, this pawn. My mouse is a little slippery today. We have knight c6, just developing the knight. I jump with my knight to d5, which the engine doesn't really appreciate. Why doesn't the engine appreciate? Because this loses a pawn in the center of the board. And right here I was a little bit sad because, I mean, it is a blunder. I don't really get visible compensation. The engine says it's technically a mistake, but I don't really. But I have to focus if I still want to win this game. I go d3, which is the incorrect move. The correct move would be queen e3. He goes back with the knight. I trade. He takes with the queen. And here, I open the f-file. And now I have some juicy intentions where I can bring out the knight and attack his queen. He takes back with the pawn. And I go queen e1, targeting that center pawn and his king. Reminding to you that his king is still in the center. And here, if he tries to run away with castles, you have bishop c1, a skewer, which is not the best move by some reason, but it does win you a rook. It does win you a rook. Let me just take this off. Queen e1, we have bishop d6, just maintaining that pawn, because if he castled, he would lose that pawn. Now when I'm seeing with a tempo on the queen. Go d4, just keeping up the pressure, and it's not the correct move. Here I could have played knight g5. Now, the question is this a findable move? Technically it is, because you're now putting triple pressure into the f-pawn, and you also gain a tempo on the queen, so yeah, it's pretty much lights out. But I go d4, which is not correct, and he goes long castle. And yeah, you remember that idea that I told you about. This, I decided not to go with it. I decided to take that pawn first. He retreated because, of course, I don't really, because of course there is a tempo on the queen. Actually, I trade, and I go queen f2, which is not the best line, but it does put pressure on that bishop, which is only defendable with g6. And that makes, when there's only one good move in your position to the opponent, I mean, the engine says it's a mistake. It prefers bishop g6, just trading the queens and losing a pawn, which is not good. But yeah, it kind of makes it easy for you to calculate when there's just one clear option for your opponent. Of course, maybe they'll play something else, and then you have to see. But yeah, we have bishop takes pawn. It's not the best line. And after the king proceeds, you have g4. Yeah, the computer wanted me to play g4 right away, but yeah, this is still fine. But you cannot take the pawn with the bishop, because then the queen is hanging, because he played g6, and that leaves the queen very weak. So rook a8. I go with my bishop back, just putting more pressure in his. He goes rook a1. This is just not the best move, because now he's just putting pressure on the pawn. I nonetheless defend it. He protects the bishop again, but now I just take it because I'm up a piece. He goes g5. I go queen to e2, h6, just trying to hang on. Oh my god! Sometimes my English just sounds so dumb and bad. But yeah, h6. I'm trying to hang on to the g pawn. b4, attacking the rook. He slides it to a4. I go bishop e2, just trying to develop my last piece. He plays rook a3. This is just, I mean, just dumb. I mean, he could resign at any point here. Go b5. c5 for my opponent. I check him with my queen. Let's do the center. I take the pawn. And here he finds, I would say, a good idea. I mean, wait, isn't this winning? No, he sacrifices the bishop. When I take, there's this little tactic here where if my king goes back, he wins the bishop back, but of course he is still a full piece down. Here I check him with my f-pawn. Now here I was looking for all mating threads and stuff. I was also considering rook d1, which is the best line, but I play f6. His king goes to f8. Here the engine still wants me to put my rook either on e1 or d1, but here I hang my queen in one move. I overlooked the fact that there was this mate in one, and I missed that his rook captured my queen, and white resigns. Now, keep in mind that this game happened like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's still hard for me to remember it. The tournament was going well up until this point. I had a fantastic game. I will say this, that this game was probably my best attacking game, and it would have finished as such if it wasn't for this. If I just kept my coolness and just normally brought my rook to the open file, even if I hung a pawn, like, it's still completely fine. But yeah, I hang my queen in one move, and this is just a queen for nothing. So yeah, I resigned. I was, for a little bit, I was debating if I should keep playing on, but I just couldn't make myself continue, because this was shocking. This was just, I've never felt so sad or humiliated or anything. This was just embarrassing. I mean, I was completely destroying the guy, and then this happens. Excuse me. I have nothing to say. It was just bad for me. I should have done better, but I mean, at the end of the day, it happens. It wasn't the first time that something like this happened. Actually, technically, I think it was, but like, this normally happens. I mean, it's perfectly normal. I mean, last tournament I also lost some games, some stupid stuff, like in Spanish tournaments and stuff. I also lost the games because of just stupid shit. And at the end of the day, you have to move on. You have to keep on giving your best and fighting. So yeah, let's go to round 4. We're back to round 4. Here normally I normally put like pictures that I think describe my opponents or something like that. But like here I just put a wolf because I don't really know what to do or put. So like, yeah, let's just keep going. Round 4, I'm playing Tomas Canario. That is an opponent that is, I will say, at the time I knew he was like very much inexperienced, much more inexperienced and worse at the game than myself. He opened with e4, but given the conditions of last game, normally I would have 100% play like the Caro Khan, maybe even the Sicilian, just to try to be more aggressive. Even the Scandi is fine, but like last game was tough, and I really didn't know what to do, so I just went e5. I really didn't want a tough game, complicated game. I just wanted an easy game. And knight f3, knight c6. I was expecting like some Italian, some bullshit. He just goes with three knights opening, so we just played 4 knights game now. Plays the Spanish variation. Now gladly I knew some engine line of the Spanish variation. The Rubinstein counter gambit technically, which is this. The top engine line is to take on d4, but normally, yeah, you see a pawn and you go, ooh, free pawn, and you take it. It's not good. But yeah, it's still playable. He takes my I take, he goes knight there, and now it's right around here that I probably forgot what the engine line was, or maybe this wasn't the engine line, it was something else. Only, no, I think instead of this, it was e5, yeah, probably. Here I take the free pawn, which is a game-losing mistake, because now he pins my knight to my queen. Not to my queen, to my king. Remembering this is a classical tournament. I just played this. I was a little bit sad from last game, and I really knew what I was doing. It was costing me a lot to just be there playing. All these games, I think, it was for all these games happened in the same day, and oh my god, roller coaster was indeed overwhelming to me. I was having a very good tournament after that loss. I mean, there's still more 2 games to go, in theory 3, so there's still a lot to do, and against a weaker opponent, I mean, I should win, right? But like, I really wasn't having it, I was like, yeah, I want to win, but then I just blundered this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not winning this game. I maybe not lose as well, but I'm not winning this game, and if I draw, I'm gonna be what? I'm gonna be 2-4. So I go f5, he attacks my knight, and here I just play c6. It's the only thing that keeps, not that saves the game, but it just keeps fighting. Here he actually trades, so I trade the knight. He deals with check, so he's now, if I'm not wrong, up a pawn. No, he's not. He want to trade the queens again. I really want to draw this game. He takes, I take. Here he castles. I play h6 before a6 before castling, and b5. I'm like, yeah, I want to draw, but I'm also trying to be aggressive, trying to get something out of the game. And now it says that the game's strong. I try to go for the bishop. He plays a4, so there's really nothing. I try to, go bishop a6. Slides the rook over from this dangerous diagonal. I just go king d8, bishop f4. We have bishop f6, and he very well played. Actually, plays bishop e5, which is actually a very good move. But if I'm not wrong, the engine's top line. No, it's not. It is. I mean, it's kind of like in between that and d6. But yeah, I mean, this is just completely. So now he's targeting my pawn, and I have to defend it, and now he just gets too much action. Not actually what he wanted wasn't the correct thing. The correct thing here was d6, and I agree. Here I trade, and go with b8. Trading the pawns. This is a draw, as it says. And here I'm slightly better because of rook e8, which is not what I play, which is a losing mistake because of this. And this is completely lights out because now he threatens my bishop again, and he threatens all sorts of, weird attacks. So here I have to trade my bishops, but this is just a losing rook endgame. I take a pawn, but here I'm like completely losing. I try to defend myself. He checks. I block. my rook. And he actually trades here. The correct thing was not to trade. I think it was just to play rook from e to a5. Actually, this is what the engine wants. But why not this? Yeah, because this hangs a rook in one move, and I'm just stupid for thinking that that was actually good. So yeah, here he trades and checks, but here the thing is that now my king is trapped. And the thing about my king being trapped is that in an endgame this is awful because, I mean, how am I supposed to actually make progress or try to defend myself from attack if I'm trapped in a fucking corner? And I even have to protect the D pawn. It cannot fall. So now he goes f4, and this is just a simple endgame because as my king and my rook are protecting those pawns, I mean, those three pawns are gonna definitely fall here. I try to trade, but I just hang the pawn. But I try to look for something because, I mean, this is clearly a losing endgame because I'm gonna have 2 against 3. But I mean, at this stage, you just have to try everything because my king was trapped in a cage now, and if he takes the h7 pawn, which he didn't, he played g4 and blundered a lot of his advantage. But I mean, you have to look for counterplay. I mean, because if he actually took that pawn on h7, I mean, my king would have been in a much smaller box, bigger, not smaller. I blundered it right away. The thing I should have done, I mean, rook endgames are complicated. I should have played h5. And yeah, it makes sense because this just hangs the pawn. And he doesn't take the pawn. We actually trade rooks and make a draw. So yeah, this was quite the game. And I got happy because I hung the pawn. But yeah, okay, we trade and this is a draw. We actually, I mean, no, we agreed in a draw like this, and then we said, oh, but let's see if like the position is winning. It wasn't because, I mean, there was like some trades or something. We reviewed some trades and the king's coming to help. But I mean, the thing is that, okay, yeah, this is completely winning for white because I let him capture my pawn. But it wasn't this, but we saw something like, I don't know. I mean, we trade all the pawns, and then he has one left by I don't know why, and then he advances it. But like, I just shield myself, and it's a draw. So yeah, game 4 ended a draw, which is not good because my opponent was worse than me, and I knew that. I mean, I still was playing with the black pieces, but it's not good. And now I'm 2-4 with 1 round to go. If I gotta win, I'm gonna be honest. I will be. Well, the tournament is already gone. But yeah, it would be amazing, especially because that third game and fourth game were just completely awful. So yeah. And yeah, we're back to the final round. Of the tournament. Yeah, it still says round 4 here. Let me change it. Okay, now, so yeah, I'm playing with the white pieces against Manuel Frias, which is kind of like the D-man in our club. He like taught everyone, like he is the teacher. He's like 70 years old, 90, not 90, 80 something. I think 70 is something, maybe 80 in a few. But yeah, he taught me. He taught like everyone. Oh, and he also has a honey shop, Mel Delvish. If any one of you is interested and comes to Portugal and comes to the wasteland that I live in, which is pretty much Minecraft Farlands, feel interested in that. So yeah, I am with the white pieces. And before we start, let me just say that for me to play this game was like very different, not different, difficult. It was like super hard because all of the first games, not first games, first 5 games, they were they were like they were all in the same day. And after that disastrous third game, I had to come back one day to play another game, another 2 games that it ended up just being one. It was very tough, and I was like, well, I mean, I couldn't sleep at night. That loss, and still sometimes I have trouble sleeping because it hasn't got much better since that day, to be honest. And anyways, I opened with d4. He was knight f6. Now here, I don't really know if I should play knight c3 and try to go for the jump on the ladder, or if I just should play normally. So I just go bishop d5, the Trompowsky attack. Technically a new thing that I added to my opening repertoire. Why technically? Because yeah, it's technically a thing that I added to my opening repertoire. Technically because I like knew a little bit, like nothing. And to be honest, I'm not really gonna be playing it anymore. We have d5, which is a tough move to play against because we can either just immediately take the bishop, the knight, and damage his pawn structure, and then we just see what happens. Or we could just play knight c3, hoping that he would go for some king's Indian setup, which he doesn't. He immediately kicks my bishop. Why going for a king's Indian setup? Because imagine that he plays here, I go queen here, he goes here, and we both castle. I have bishop here, which is a tough move to play against because I mean I don't know if he just tries to keep on developing. Ignore if some pawn is hanging. I mean, let's say here it's bad, but I mean, let's say here. And you may think, oh, okay, you cannot take the pawn because if you take the pawn, your position is ruined, right? Because you get the queen. So let's just stick with the knight. Yeah, but then you sack the rook, and it's the same thing. And this isn't Stockholm made in one. And even if you like don't do anything, if you just keep on doing your thing, I take with the f pawn because the h pawn is just done. Because I'm pretty sure this just blunders like checkmate if like bishop takes and king takes and queen takes, king here. Yeah, mate in one. King not here, that loses the queen. Again, king here. But yeah, you take with the f pawn. The position is still like completely idiotic. Let me just now. I don't really understand how chess.com works, so I might struggle a little bit. But okay, so I play knight c3. The problem is that this is not the Trompowsky attack anymore. This is called the Richter-Verezov attack, which I mean is still playable, but it's nowhere near as good as the Trompowsky, and it's bad for white. It's not good. Only if you don't know like what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, do not do that. Because h6, I go back, he goes g5, just go back and just try to provoke him. Because now he puts his bishop in the fianchetto. Good knight there, just trying to get that pawn, but now he defends. And this is actually jump off a London type move because now I go e3 and I try to return the knight and just damage his pawn structure. Play c6, and this just completely shocked me. Went knight c3, and he went with the knight to c6, and this just was super weak because I knew that this move was not good at all. This move was bad, but I didn't really knew how to punish it. And there's no clear way. You just have to keep on playing, and then maybe the move punishes itself. I go f3, just trying to get a little bit space. I should have defaulted my g3 and just try to play it like a regular Joe Baba London because it's what it is now. Here I trade the bishops. Goes queen 1. I get knight d2. Long castle. Knight h5, just attacking my bishop, and here I choose to trade after a lot of thinking. Here the game is pretty much equal, and I start to go g4. Okay, now right here I have the initiative, I have an attack brewing in, maybe. He goes back Then knight I play h4, and yeah, the king side is complete chaos. Queen e6. Here I go f3, hanging a pawn because if knight takes on g4. I didn't see it, to be honest. I think I saw some weird line that I now I don't really remember what was it. It was probably something like takes. Kind of works. Queen here, and then that was like here. This pawn wasn't here, and then you would actually trade the queens and be in an equal. This is not equal because the knight is hanging. But imagine that the pawn is not there. I don't really know why. Let me just clear this. Have f4, which just hangs a pawn, and now I have to play a pawn down, which is not good, especially in this position. That is, it's just bad. And yeah, I try and try here. I mean, I'm not gonna like get into any detail with the moves because this is just me just trying to hold on to the position. There's nothing really interesting. Now here e5 was a mistake. I take the pawn, which is the wrong idea. The correct idea was knight f5 because this is just lights out. This is not lights out because you sack a rook. No, you don't. You don't even sack a rook. This is just stupid because the queen can move, and now you have the bishop. Here in this position, he has to play the only move that doesn't lose. That is queen f8. That it defends the bishop, but here it still gets tricky after you take. I mean, yeah, it's still hard. It says it's a draw. Yeah, it's not easy. But I mean, it was that I didn't see. I didn't overlooked it, and yeah. No, I never played it. I took the pawn immediately, and then went for knight f5. This line really doesn't make any sense. I mean, yeah, you target the bishop. Now the bishop can move, and there's nothing. And the other, it made sense because the queen was being attacked. But yeah, he would just trade. And I mean, here I overlooked that I won a pawn, but you never win a pawn because the knight can be captured with that bishop. That this was just super dumb for me because yeah, let's see. Now I had not to play with a pawn down, but with a piece down. And here you're just gonna see him converting. I played a little bit more of moves, just trying to hold on, but here I resigned at move 32. And thus the tournament ended. And yeah, it wasn't the best. I got technically 2.5 out of 5. No, technically it wasn't. No, was it? It was 2 out of. Yeah, it was 2 out of 5. Which is terrible. It is terrible. Technically, I got 3 out of 6 because last game I didn't have to play and I just won the free point. But yeah, this 2 out of 5 is just completely awful. I mean, I had such a good game. My third game just completely destroyed my soul, my being. Let me just switch it up. Also, no. Let me just show you guys here. Let's put on some porn here. It really seems like a very mature idea. Let's see this. And I can show you here tournament details just for you guys to see what happened in the last round. Here are these are the results. Here we have the results. Is it showing? Yeah, it's still recording. Let me just move this a little bit to the left. This probably you guys see it. And as you can see, first place was Jorge Silva, which I also played in the last tournament. And second, we had Pedro Canito, which had the same points as Silva, despite playing 2 last rounds. Yes, he didn't attend the second day of the tournament. And another player that didn't attend was Jorge Carrillo, and because I think that he would have secured those last games. Because yeah, he played like trash in the first like in the tour in all tournament, but he still managed to like be super good. But yeah, and with this tournament result, um, I was called up to participate in a Portuguese national teams cup, which the tournament, no, not the tournament, the first round which I participated already occurred, and I played for the B team. There was an A team, which is Demetrio, Antonio Gracio, Pedro Canito, who more? Jaime, who's not here. Rodrigo Raimundo, who is here. Fourth, okay. And the B team is Frias, George Silva, Enrique, and me in the fourth table, which is the worst, but it's fine. And yeah, this was it. I mean, it was very bad. I'm trying to like be better next year. And yeah, I think that's all. Goodbye.